Hello, 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 and welcome everybody to this Talking Bat interview. And today I am very, very pleased to be talking bat with Al Milano, bat detector reviewer extraordinaire. Hi, Al, how are you doing?
Hi, very good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Are you looking forward to it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Now, what many people won't know about you, and I think it's not unfair for me to say this against anyone else on the planet, but I think you must be the one person on planet Earth that has reviewed more bat detectors and associated equipment than anybody else in existence. Is that?
I think that's fair to say. Yep.
Yeah. That is pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
So, another thing about this guy, everybody, is as you're going to learn as we start talking, he's not in the pocket of any of the manufacturers. He doesn't owe anybody anything. So his reviews are genuine, credible, honest appraisals of what he feels he is experiencing when he takes these bat detectors out of the box, so to speak. Again, is that,
yes.
Have I got that right, Al? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the important, an important factor.
Yeah. Now, before we get into all that, though, I want to talk a little bit about your background and, where you started off life and what did you do professionally? Because you got into the bat detecting stuff about 10 plus years ago. But before that, am I right in saying your background is computer engineering, that kind of stuff? Is that?
Yes. Yes, I started as a computer technician and eventually really enjoyed servers. And so after being a computer engineer, working on laptops and getting tons and tons of certifications, so I'm pretty much certified to work on lots of different brands of laptops and computer hardware. But then eventually, again, I enjoyed the idea of servers and data centers, server rooms, and I eventually managed to get to work on site at Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, taking care of their server room. Yeah, that was, I guess, the high point of my career at the time, and just continued to work with computers as well. And until eventually, well, I, became disabled. I have problems with my back.
Okay.
And had to stop working because of the pain. And I've been disabled since. So I keep busy with electronic stuff, and that's how I eventually got into bat detectors.
Okay. So you're not professionally employed at any level now, is that fair? Or do you do anything professionally now?
No, nothing at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you've got some interesting things that you do other than bat detectors, of course. First of all, you're quite heavily into your astronomy product reviews as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about this? Because I know nothing about astronomy other than what a full moon looks like. Okay, just tell us a little bit about this stuff.
Sure. Well, I've kind of been into astronomy since about the age of 12, when I got one of my older brothers bought me a telescope, and I really didn't know what to do with it back then. I was 12 years old, but that kind of started my interest, and I've been interested in astronomy pretty much ever since. And I eventually, typed up this blog, and it originally was covering urban astronomy, since I happened to, at the time, live in an urban environment. And, there's a lot of issues with trying to enjoy astronomy in an urban setting because of all the light pollution and things like that. And I basically wrote some blog posts, and I ended up requesting equipment to review from different manufacturers, and I enjoyed that, especially certain filters which would help someone in an urban environment to cut out light pollution. So those reviews went over very well, and this was simultaneously pretty much while I had the Bat Detector blog already up and running, and yeah, so it's kind of like a hobby, and it's interesting. A lot of and then towards the end, I got into astrophotography, which is very interesting, but time consuming to process the images after the images are acquired. And now I'm very lucky to live in a suburban, more rural area with darker skies. And so, of course, I had to take advantage of that for a bit. And the bats, of course,
Yeah.
the population of bats has increased, tenfold.
Okay. So whereabout do you live now? You're obviously in the States, but whereabout in the States are you?
Yes.
Yeah. Which part of the USA are you in?
In New York.
Okay.
So it was closer to New York City originally, and finally I'm up in the suburbs, about 70 miles, 60 or 70 miles north of New York City, or thereabouts. And
so is that getting, I'm trying to think of my geography of the USA, is that getting, that's getting closer to the Canadian border? Is that right?
Yes.
Not quite?
Yes, the closer I can get, north, the probably the happier I'd be. It's just like I'm enjoying the suburban kind of lifestyle, and and just seeing wildlife, because I'm just crazy about wildlife. And I saw 2 toads today, 2 Fowler's toads, and just love them.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, talking about hobbies, what the blazes is this? what's going on here?
Okay, now this is a microscope, an image from a microscope, because I'm crazy about microscopes and microscopy, and that is also something that has a rich history in the UK, and as a lot of my interests do. But this happens to be partial abdomen of an earwig, which was dissected, and this is the abdomen in its entirety, as far as having removed the exoskeleton. And this is a stack of 10 images taken with a fluorescence microscope.
Okay.
And it was neat because in this case, just about all of the earwig's organs are autofluorescent. So they, the compounds that they're made up of automatically fluoresce under blue UV light of about 460 nanometers. So this is just a regular stack of 10 images, and you can see all of a lot of the organs. Unfortunately, you can't see too much of the nerve, a lot of the nerve structure, which is quite interesting to me. But that's kind of like at the bottom of that image, you see some of the nerve structure.
Can I down here, or?
Yeah. Earwigs have these 2 glands that they use for chemical defense, and they contain quinine, a substance similar to quinine, and they are very fluorescent. They fluoresce very brightly, and that's what I was trying to do. And then it wasn't easy, so eventually I said, well, this looks pretty nice, and took an image to share on Facebook.
So goodness, so you've got all your microscope work, you've got your astronomy stuff, and of course you've got your Bat Detector reviews, a blog website. Now this is obviously what we really want to talk about today, because most of our listeners here, I would imagine all of our listeners here, have all used bat detectors of various makes and models throughout the years. And this website, and we'll give details of where to find the website at the end of the interview, everyone. But this website, this blog site, or whatever you call it, which is available on the internet, how many visitors to this do you get in a typical month?
Well, I typically get between 2,000 and 3,000 visitors per month, unless it's kind of like a peak of bat detecting season. And in those cases, it can be even more, quite a bit more during those months when everyone is gearing up for bat detecting. Or
Now, how did you get into this? Was it an interest in computers and electronics, which then drove an interest in bat detectors, which then drove an interest in bats? Or were you into bats before you were into bat detectors? What was the order?
Well, the order actually was, I'm basically a naturalist, I guess, at heart. And so birding and things like that, I've always been involved with. But I have a lot of experience building electronic kits. So I would build a lot of electronic kits just as a hobby. Kits that were sent with all of the parts basically needed and just assembly instructions. And all a person would need to do is solder everything up. And so I really enjoyed building those kinds of kits. And once came across a kit which was offered from Canada, and built that one and went on my first bat walk with the Museum of Natural History. A couple of ladies who, one is Danielle Gustafan, who you may have heard her name. She's involved with the New York City Bat Group. But the funny story is that all of a sudden my bat detector barely worked. This bat detector wasn't working, and I was getting frustrated. And some of the leaders of the walk, they had Peterson, I should say Peterson.
Yeah,
You pronounce that, but detectors, and mine wasn't working, and I was getting so frustrated. And it turned out to be a wire came loose because of just very cheap construction with this particular detector. And the components that were used in the wires were very, very flimsy, very cheap construction. So I found out later that one of these wires came loose that really shouldn't have. But so that was like a really awful example of a bat detector kit. And so I believe I had a somewhat negative review of it on my blog at one point, but then I removed it because it just, I figured, well, it's not nice. So I removed that particular kit, that review, but that is what kind of started me into bat detecting. And I had bats actually present in my backyard, in my urban environment. There were, big brown bats and little brown bats. And so I'd be able to record them nightly. But I just continued with that, down that road of bat detectors. And what happened was I just became fascinated with bat detectors themselves, and just really got very interested in them. And that's how I initially started the blog. And I should say there's one other thing. The company Dotatronic, shortly after the company Dotatronic in Italy came out with a bat detector, and it looked like a very nice bat detector. It had that quintessential shape to it. It had a orange backlit LCD, and I thought it looked very promising. And so I wanted to write a review about it and just kind of get the word out about this bat detector. And what happened was no one ever really found out about it, and it never really got produced on a large scale. And then the project was canceled, basically. And I thought that it was so sad. And I think it was because there was no exposure. So people didn't know about this bat detector. And I didn't want that to happen in the future. I was like, well, that really, maybe if people knew about this bat detector, the existence of this particular bat detector, it could have been successful. So that was one of the things that drove me. And so I said, I'll do this blog, and from now on, I'd like to get the word out about and especially obscure bat detectors that someone may never know exist in the mainstream.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So how many bat detectors have you reviewed? I'm not sure if you've said already on camera,
yeah,
but it's quite a lot.
Over 40.
40. Wow.
Yeah, so over 40.
Okay. And do all of these manufacturers, do they send you free kit to review now, or do they?
No, the majority, quite a few of them, I say the majority of them will, they get it returned after the review period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
but
especially some of them are quite expensive. So
yeah. Yeah, well, I think I was saying to you before we started the interview, before we put the cameras on for the interview, at BatAbility Club, we did a few reviews of some equipment in the early days of club. And by goodness, it's hard. It's hard to actually do a review of a bit of kit. I thought it would have been quite easy. But to actually go into it thoroughly and to try and keep a balanced perspective, yes, and also learn about how that individual bat detector actually works, it's not an easy thing to do. Especially if you're bouncing from one manufacturer to another manufacturer, and they all do things totally differently, of course. Yes, usually yes, with a similar end result, but yes, machines do things differently in order to get there. But you obviously enjoy it. You obviously enjoy it.
What happened is quite early on, I just became, I guess you could say, obsessed. I just love the idea of bat detectors themselves, and just really, kind of became obsessed with the different types, how they work, how they've been built, the offerings, how they can be of use to bat workers. And I enjoyed reviewing them to try to, inform people about the things they'd want to hear about the detector, or the things that they would find important. And I just go crazy when I get a new bat detector to review. I get giddy, and I just love it. And I just love everything about bat detectors, basically. And so that's what made it, quite easy to continue. Yeah.
And of course, you've got a support team, don't you?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what's happening here. Are these?
This is just a sample of this is my nephew Gabriel. Okay. And I decided, he could be a bat detector model, and these are the different bat detectors, and there's one from Titley, there's one from Wildlife Acoustics, there's Peterson microphone there, and another one from Wildlife Acoustics, and there were quite a few others. And it's just funny because I don't know, he's kind of cute, and some people find it cute and funny, so I had him pose with bat detectors for a while. And I joke around now, I say, he's 8 years old. I say, I think he's getting a little long in the tooth.
Okay.
I think he can pull it off so well anymore,
But he could become the succession plan. As he gets older, he can begin to take over.
I hadn't thought of that. We can keep it going.
So Gabriel could be the future. I love this picture here on the top left. I mean, this kind of quite often is how I feel when I get a new bat detector. It just comes out of the box and my hands just go, what do I do with this? It's especially how I feel when I get involved in software as well. If I put on a new bit of software that I've never used, and sometimes it feels as if it'd be simpler to learn how to fly an airline than it would some of the software that comes out.
Yeah.
Okay, no, good stuff. Right, so goodness, so many bat detectors, and we're going to touch upon a few of these, maybe in a little bit more detail in in the course of the rest of the interview. But I mean, here are examples of stuff that you've looked at in the past. And goodness, some of these I recognize. Here's an old Anabat SD2. I've got one of those in the office behind me. Here's Peterson's time expansion, frequency division, heterodyne bat detector. Probably, arguably, in my opinion, for its time, probably one of the best bat detectors ever built on its day. I don't know if you would feel that yourself. Yeah,
absolutely. And it produced the most beautiful sounding heterodyne that I've ever heard, I think, on any bat detector. It's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird point, I guess, but it's true. As far as when listening to the heterodyne system on it, it just sounds just wonderful. And the time expansion, of course, is great, and the ability to hook it up to Zoom recorders, the Zoom brand recorders. There's even a small guide somewhere. I think I may have referenced it, in fact, on the review, how you can set the settings on that D240X to hook up to a Zoom recorder for best results. And the other interesting thing is that, let's see, going across on the bottom there, that bat detector with the 73 kilohertz.
This one,
display,
okay, yeah.
That one's from Japan. That one is a bat detector from Japan, and it's still in production. But the gentleman who designed it and makes it, he has a friend who can do some translating for him if someone were to, order one, I suppose.
Okay. And is it purely a heterodyne bat detector?
Yes, it's that's a tunable heterodyne. And again, this is a thing where it may not be the best choice for a bat worker. It'd be great probably for a hobbyist, but I just have to, I'm on this thing where I just have to get my hands on every bat detector that's out there that I can find, And so on the top of this photo, there's a very small one that's really tiny. And that one was one from Dotatronic as well. And that was called the Batango, as in bat and go. So bat and go, because it's so small, you can keep it in your pocket. It required the use of earphones, and it was very simple push button. But unfortunately, it never made it. It was another bat detector that never really, I guess, caught on. And sometimes the builders or designers, manufacturers themselves, sometimes don't have a lot of confidence in some of the products, like this kind of one-off thing where you just made a few and then probably didn't think that they would be too popular and stopped making them. But it's there anyway, and I did a little review of it, So sometimes I do that. And I also have a section on the blog where there's reviews of bat detectors that are no longer produced.
Okay.
So there's a little section, put them aside, and then the main list is, of course, bat detectors that are currently in production.
Yeah. And there are, I started doing bats almost 30 years ago. Okay. And in the UK, when I started doing bats, there was only really one manufacturer of bat detectors at that point. And the only other manufacturer that I was aware of, but of course, this was before the internet had really taken off and all the rest of it, was Peterson Electronics in Sweden.
Yes.
And it was basically Batbox Limited, or Stag Electronics, as they were called back then. Yeah.
Yes.
So it was Stag Electronics and Peterson were really the only two brands that people were using. And nobody had a Peterson unless they had a spare few £1,000, which was, it's a lot of money today, but that was an even considerably more money
Yes.
25, 30 years ago. But there are just so many manufacturers now of these things. And each manufacturer quite often has a range of products. So Wildlife Acoustics, for example, they don't just have one bat detector. Typically Scientific, they've got a range of bat detectors. Elecon, the same.
Yes. Yes.
It's kind of...
It's fascinating. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you something, okay?
Sure.
And I'm sure someone will have asked you this before, okay? But when you go outside tonight into your back garden with a bat detector to record bats, right? Which machine have you got in your hands? Are you able to say? Do you bounce between different ones, or do you have one that for you you're quite attached to?
Let's see. Well, the Griffin from Batbox was really that's an amazing bat detector, and I really like the new stereo bat scanner from Elecon.
It's a bit like this one here, but I'm not too sure. Yeah.
Yes, and it's I've actually reviewed it as well. It has 2 microphones, and it gives you a really wonderful kind of experience, because as the bat is flying by, you hear it coming from the right, and then you hear it leaving from the left. So it kind of gives you that, because of the 2 microphones.
Because it's got, I think I've only ever seen one being used once, but it's got a microphone on the side here and a microphone on the side there.
Yes,
that's kind of how it works.
The stereo one. Yes. Yeah. And I believe that might be a photo of the original one.
Yeah.
The stereo one may look slightly different, but that's a great one. And I kind of like, of course, the Echometer Touch 2 Pro. That's an excellent bit of kit, because you just put it on a phone or tablet. Typically with me, it's a tablet, and you get quite a bit of information. You can't beat getting an auto ID, which would be fairly accurate. That's a whole other thing. But
yeah.
I guess a lot of people, hobbyists anyway, would really enjoy seeing the ID come up. So that's a lot of fun. And then the only other one I like, the one I'm in the process of reviewing, is the Lunabat. It's called the Lunabat DFR1 Pro from Animal Sound Labs in Poland.
Okay.
And it's I just like it because it reminds me of just like a classic kind of the quintessential bat detector. It's got like the shape. It's got lots of LEDs. I'm a big fan of LEDs.
Okay.
I don't know, and I just I like it. It records automatically, full spectrum. So that's a pretty good one as well.
Okay, no, sounds good. And we've got a few here. I mean, we've talked about some of these already. So here's the Peterson. This is the one. I tell you, this bat detector, I've never owned one, but it must have been about 15 years ago or so, maybe a little bit longer than that. But I do a lot of courses where people, crazy people think I can tell them things about bat detectors and bat acoustics and stuff. And so I get people turn up on courses, and I had an attendee turned up on one of my courses a long time ago, and they had one of these machines, and they didn't know how to work it. They didn't know how to get it all set up, because it's not necessarily as straightforward as, because at its time it was a complicated bat detector.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Albeit top of its class. There was nothing else like it in its time, I don't think. Certainly not from a European perspective anyway. Yes. And I remember I went back to my bedroom that night, having borrowed their bat detector, to then write out on paper what setting. And I remember I had the bat detector, bats flying outside in the garden of the hotel, and I was pressing buttons and altering settings to try and get them the best configuration. And I did it, but it was not a quick thing for me to do, because they didn't, of course, they gave me the bat detector, but they hadn't brought along the guide with it.
Right,
so,
right.
so I'm trying to do it all without the guide, and of course the internet back then it wasn't quite as good as it is today. But I've also got we've got down here the bat logger, which is the classic bat logger M.
Yes. That's a wonderful detector.
Yeah, yeah, very robust. Have you reviewed yet the new one, that the one that they just brought out earlier this year?
Right. No, I was promised one. I'll probably have to follow up. But yeah, they said they would see about getting me one to review. It looks very interesting.
Yeah,
looks like something from the set of Star Trek or something in a way.
Yeah, it's kind of got that handle on it, and yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. I had Elecon. Elecon did a talking back interview with me. Goodness, it's probably January or February this year, and it was pretty much the week after they had announced and had finally released pictures of the new bat detector. But I've yet to see one in the flesh, so to speak.
Yes.
So, and then we've got we've got the Bat Box Baton XD. You sent me a picture of that. Is there a reason in particular why you sent me a picture of this one?
That is a wonderful bat detector, and its predecessor used to be kind of like a workhorse for me. It was like one of my main bat detectors, and I used to use it as well for unattended bat recording as well. Okay. And it never failed. You know, it's robust and dependable, and it was great. And of course, the XD has so many more advanced features. It's just, there's nothing not to like about it. You know, I love that. I love that baton.
Yeah, and it's pretty reasonably priced for what it is. You know, you're not spending a couple of $1,000s on it or whatever. You know, it's
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What about this here? This is the Anabat Scout, I think. Is that correct? Is that a Scout that's here? I know a few people. Scout. Yeah, I know a few people that have got these in the UK. I have had one for a loan of on one night last year. I was a bit surprised when, look, I'm used to the Bat Logger M, okay? And then when I picked up the Anabat Scout, I was expecting it to be quite heavy, but it's almost like I picked up the Scout and I thought, oh, this must just be a prototype and I haven't put anything inside the box because it was so light, you know, by comparison to the Bat Logger M. How did you find the Scout?
Absolutely.
Have you used it much?
It was a pleasure to use. Actually, it was very nice and easily. You can easily start recording bat calls as soon as you walk out the door, and you get all of the essential info that you would want to know about is right there on the display. And it's a pleasing display. It doesn't mess up your night vision or anything. And it made some very nice recordings as well. And I was able to record bats from at least 100 feet away with it. I believe that was one of the ones that I tested at that distance.
Okay.
And that's one of my things that had been from early on, is trying to see just how far we can pick up a bat from with the detectors. So that's one of my things, well, I've always tried to see and which one would pick up bats at the greatest distances.
Yeah, and of course, your big bats are going to pick up from further away than your smaller. So I would imagine for you, your big brown bats, which I think are an Epithecus species, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're a bit like Ceratines and northern bats that we get in Northwest Europe. So I would imagine you would pick them up from further away than your little brown bats. And I think your little brown bats, are they a Myotis species? Are they? I can't remember.
The little brown bats are, it's a Myotis. lucificus.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So you've got big brown bats, you've got little brown bats, but they're completely different genus. They're completely. It's yeah. So I would imagine, do you try and do this test about distance? Do you consider the species of bat that you're recording relative to the distance as well?
I typically will do it for an extended period of time, sometimes between 30 minutes or to an hour, and then compare the amount of the number of bats, because there'll be typically 3 species which are pretty much always present in that particular setting. And so I'll see how many I've gotten of each species, and I'll do comparisons. I'll print out things and do comparisons, especially if I happen to have 2 detectors on hand at the same time,
Okay.
and that's fun,
Yeah.
So you record, and then record for one night and then the next night, and just keep doing it and alternating, and then comparing the results. And then I can come up and actually say, detector A has been picking up bats for at a greater distance consecutively,
Gotcha. No, I think that's amazing. That's amazing stuff. It's really interesting. And of course, people can read all about this on the blog. There's a few other things here. Here's this one from Japan that you were talking about earlier. Did you tell me earlier? You mentioned something about how you got this. You decided to review this, but everything was in Japanese, so you had to get somebody to translate it all. Yeah.
Yes, and just in order to place an order. Well, in my case, it was just to review a sample, and so he had someone who was bilingual and would be the go-between between me and the maker. I think by now he might have streamlined the operation of actually selling these. It's kind of like he's like a one-man operation, I believe. So, and he builds them, and like I said, they're just neat. And I'm afraid I have to get my hands on every bat detector that is out there. Just, and so I went searching and came across this one, and I liked the specification. I liked the way it looked, and I thought it'd be interesting. And but if a person were to order one, it won't be a quick process. It may not be a quick process. He may have streamlined it a bit by now, but it wasn't exactly. It's not like going to one of the major manufacturers and just clicking, and 2 clicks and you'll have it, in the mail. And and then these 2 are made by the company Seal. Who actually, they're out of business now, I believe.
Okay.
But the blue one, this red and yellow one on the left was, of course, a children's one. And I just loved that, because you could get kids started early in appreciating bats and detecting bats, which is great. And the one on the left, the one on the right, the blue one was one of the first time expansion, like really affordable time expansion detector. Now, it was convoluted and stuff. It would really be only for a hobbyist, like hobbyist level, so they can, get a taste of time expansion. It wouldn't have been for a professional, no way. But you could say, hey, I have a time expansion detector, and for under $300 or something like that.
Wow. But they went out of business. They were selling the stuff too cheap. They should have charged more. Okay. No, I just thought you sent me these pictures earlier, and I thought, I don't know much about, I don't know anything about these bat detectors, so I just thought it would just be interesting to get your take on those. But you do some, this is serious kit. This is This is Avisoft, and so am I right in saying this is the end elevation view of one of these machines here? Is that correct? Not quite.
No. In fact, that is its own separate detector. That is a later model. The one with that cool bat engraved in it. That is actually, I believe, it's a different model than either of those
Okay.
shown with the pen.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just, they're all great. You know, as you can see, they're kind of like a USB microphone, but that would be an understatement because they're really high quality, you know, cutting edge microphones. And then of course the software that is coupled with them is like, I think it would require quite a bit of study to get a lot of the features, you know, to bring the features to bear, because it just has a ton. The software that is provided with these is just, it's very, very capable, and it's very, it's not simple. It's not any kind of, you know, So you have to be kind of dedicated. Yeah. But the results are good though.
Yeah. I've used this software in conjunction with ultrasonic lures, and I've seen their software for their analysis, and it does look very, very thorough. But I've never actually, so thorough is the word I'm going to use.
It's a great word.
I've never actually tried to use their software myself. It's not, and I don't know. I'm probably doing a disservice here, but I don't know anyone in the UK that uses their software. There will be somebody somewhere, but there are certainly people in Europe that use the software and absolutely love it, and talk very highly of it.
It would be perfect for someone who, you know, has an advanced knowledge of bioacoustics, and, you know, could make use of all of these different things that it has available.
Now, I'm quite sure in the process of doing all of this, some of these amazing manufacturers that send you free stuff to look at and at least allow you to play around with temporarily, I'm quite sure they try and bribe you or grab your attention in different ways. What kind of stuff have you been sent?
I must say that I request this stuff. I asked them, I said, do you guys have any pens? Do you guys have any pens with your logos on them, or something that you can send me? And in this case, Titley sent me this wonderful USB drive. It has a magnetic.
Wow. Okay. Right. I didn't know they did that. Yeah,
it's useful. It's useful.
I'm not impressed, Al. I mean, I know all the guys in Titley, right? And they've never given me a free USB drive.
No, I asked. Yeah, I know. The thing is, they may not have even thought of it, but of course, I thought of asking them, do you have anything with any logos on it? Because I love that stuff. And you know, if you have anything, and they sent me a couple of pens, which were completely biodegradable, by the way, biodegradable pens. They were interesting. And a couple of packets of tea. At the Anabat logo, have a cuppa.
Have a Aussie cuppa
have an Aussie cuppa with us.
Wow.
And there's Anabat Systems, and then the logo in the back there.
Okay. Yeah. Did you have a cuppa with them?
I have a Wildlife Acoustics shirt. Now these aren't easy to get. I won this by correctly guessing how many of the particular model bat detectors. I forgot. I can't think of the name of it, but how many of them would fit in a particular knapsack or particular backpack that they had. Okay. And well, you win the backpack. Okay. And people were guessing on Twitter, and it was on Twitter, but I happened to, I have a bit of an advantage, I guess. Figure out the dimensions of how many, and I guessed 8 or 9, and that's what it was. You can fit 8 of these standalone detectors inside and it's a beautiful backpack. Wow. But other people tried to guess. They just didn't get it done.
I want to go back to the tea. All right.
Oh, sure.
Did you have a cup of tittley tea?
Yeah, yes, I did.
Yeah.
And
how was it?
It wasn't very good. It wasn't very good enough. You know what it is? And I couldn't wait to see what it was. And it says lemon myrtle bush tea. Lemon myrtle bush tea.
It doesn't sound great.
Yeah, and it wasn't. Oh no. But I love the logos. But no, the tea was not very good. And
right, so they should stick to making bat detectors. Is that what we're saying? Is it?
Yeah, because no one, no self-respecting Brit would even drink swallow a sip of that.
That's probably why we've never seen them in the British Isles. Okay, they've probably thought we're going to the UK. We'll leave the tea bags behind.
Well, the majority of my visitors are from the UK. In fact,
okay.
I wanted to mention that as well.
Wow.
Overwhelming majority of my visitors are from the
UK. To the blog site, yeah.
Yes.
Wow. That's amazing. Amazing stuff. So I think we've covered quite a lot there. I've kind of lost track of time a little bit, but just going to go back to the PowerPoint. I can't remember. Yeah, so we're almost at the end.
That's the Lunabat DFR1 Pro, by the way.
So that's the one from Poland that you were talking about earlier. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's a fairly recent picture then, yes?
I was hoping you could see the lake in the background. I'm fortunate enough to have a lake nearby.
Okay.
You can see some trees.
Yeah, I can see the tree line up here. Yeah. Wow. So do you typically go batting every week, or does it just go with when you've got bat detectors to review? Or
when I have bat detectors to review, typically I will simultaneously have if I have an unattended bat detector, I'll have that deployed. Like right now, the latest one from Wildlife Acoustics is on the window still, but that is for various mammals and typically geared for non-bat species. It's the it's the micro.
The micro, yes, I've heard of this. Yeah.
And I have a little bit about it on the blog so far, but I will say that it can pick up a goat. I've got goat spectrograms because a neighbor has goats from 200 feet away. It will pick up a baby goat crying from 200 feet away. I can say that with confidence.
I could just see that in the Wildlife Acoustics website.
I was hoping to share the sonogram so that anyone would know this is a goat. Yeah, they have a petting zoo. Or they're owners of a petting zoo, so they keep a few baby goats at home. Okay. And
so I've also heard, I think Tiddly have just launched a bat detector that isn't a bat detector as well, that's designed. Yes. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called.
It's called the Chorus.
That's it, the Chorus. Yeah. I haven't seen one of these yet either. But
I've been promised one as well.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to it. Well, because I have frogs and toads, and I consider myself very fortunate now to be living in such an environment. So we typically have frogs and toads and lots of singing insects, which I do enjoy recording from time to time. And mammals, we have some small mammals and things. And we have large mammals. We have foxes sometimes and, coyotes. So I'm kind of hoping to get some good stuff on that the new Wildlife Acoustics Micro, as well as the Chorus. When I get it.
Right, so we'll have reviews of those coming up on your blog site, in the coming months. I just want to double check the email address and the Twitter handle and the website address. Is all that shown correctly at the bottom there? I always panic that I'm putting a typo somewhere.
Yes.
It all looks good. Brilliant stuff. Wow. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we close off? I'm trying to think of, I mean, again, people, I sit here, right? And, here is my questions that I had for Al. Okay. And, I just go with the flow. So I tend not to sit here with a list of questions. I prefer just to kind of keep it natural. And that way you end up talking about things that you don't expect to be talking about. And so it's been interesting. Is there anything else you want to mention about what you do and the website or anything else before we close off?
No, not really. For now, I'm still continuing with the reviews on the blog, and just looking forward to new detectors coming along, and now we have these these cute little non-bat detectors, which again, they're geared towards non-bats. So it occurred to me, well, that would be a good thing to test as well, since they're from the same companies which make bat detectors. So
no, I think definitely. I mean, I'm quite heavily involved in the British Isles with recording small terrestrial mammals and stuff like that. And part of that interest arose because of the things that people recorded on the bat detectors almost by accident whilst they were out at night. And this stuff would confuse people. They wouldn't even think some of these sounds came from bats when they didn't come from bats at all.
Right, like your book. I was looking over your book.
Okay.
Is that a bat?
Is that a bat? Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if you'd heard of that or not. Yeah. So so that's kind of where the book came from. And we've just been commissioned. I'll just say very briefly, we've just been commissioned to do a book on the sound identification of all of Britain's terrestrial mammals.
Wow.
Excluding bats. Okay, so so all of that. So it's everything from shrews to deer species.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah. So those detectors that they're talking about, the micro from Wildlife Acoustics and the chorus from Titlayad, I may very well be using one or both of those at some point over the next 18 months. So that'll be really interesting. And it's yourself. I mean, you're going to be, or you are, the place where somebody like me would go to think, right, I wonder what Al is saying about that particular bat detector or whatever. So it's great because it just makes life so. Well, it's not that everybody's always going to agree with your perspective.
Yes.
But it's another perspective, and it's independent of what the people that are trying to sell the kit is telling the potential customers about. That's kind of what we're talking about, isn't it?
Yes. It has to be, unbiased and unbiased and honest, and just how I see stuff, and whether or not sometimes the manufacturers are happy about stuff. Like I might mention that it may be difficult to get a battery in, or it is a pain in the neck to get the SD card in and out, or something like that, or something really similar to that, something minor but similar. And of course, they're not pleased. They're not that pleased. They'll try to contact me and be, well, are you sure? And stuff like that. But so I try to be accurate.
But this is what then adds credibility to what you're doing, because if you're looking at a product, and at the one hand, if there is an aspect of the product that's negative, and you're prepared to say that then adds more weight to the positive things to do with that product, does it not? It's almost like the fact you've said something constructive, or call it negative feedback, if you like. It then means that the positive things you're saying are are genuine, because it has to be true. And there is no perfect bat detector out there.
Right.
I mean, people ask me all the time, what is my favorite bat detector? And a little bit like what you did earlier, I give them a list of maybe 4 or 5, and I almost say to them, if those 4 or 5 bat detectors could come together and have a baby, yeah.
They'd be
if
perfect.
if we had the best of one and the best of another and the features of this one, then that would probably be the bat detector to have. But life's not like that. It's more complex. Yeah.
It's surprising. I get quite a few emails from readers just asking. Sometimes they'll ask between 2, so they're trying to decide between 2, and I'll help them. In regards to their requirements and their condition and what they're going to be using it for, and sometimes they'll say, well, I'm considering these 3, and I'll say, well, okay, well, this one is not going to be good for you. Let's, and stuff like that. But I get quite a few emails like that on a regular basis.
Yeah. And it's good that you're able to give people a steer. But what I like what you said there was you ask them what they're going to be using it for. Yeah. Because that is the thing that really drives the bus in that respect, because if they're going to be using it for bat walks, that's going to be a completely different answer to someone that's maybe going to be using it for full spectrum analysis of echolocation pulses to the nth degree. It's going to be 2 completely different answers. It's
interesting when I hear from hobbyists who want to get into want to purchase more expensive equipment, like more advanced equipment sometimes, and it's like that's great. More power to you. I think that's great.
Well, Al Milano, more power to you, okay, because we'd never met before today, although we've corresponded, we've had exchanges of emails in the past, and quite a few emails leading up to today's interview as well. And I've got to say, it's been a complete pleasure talking to you, and it's been nice that we've had a few laughs as well.
Yes, thank you. You as well.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And those of you in BatAbility Club, we have a link on our products section in BatAbility Club. If you go to there is a direct link from there to the bat detecting blogspot. And if you're watching this interview, once it's up on Club, which obviously you'll only be seeing it once it's up there, if you look underneath the interview, okay, so underneath the interview, everyone, I will put links underneath the recording of this interview to the Twitter, the email, and of course the website, so that you can get to that most easily from this session, if that's what you want to do, everyone. Al, it has been a total pleasure. I'm so glad, so glad I've got to meet you. I'm so glad that
me too.
And it's been great talking bat with you, and maybe have you back at some point in the future where you can we can maybe talk specifically about some new kit that's come out, perhaps, where we maybe talk specifically about 1 or 2 bat detectors that have come out in the previous 12 months at that time, something like that. I don't know.
That'd be great.
That would be good. That'd be good. Okay, Al. Well, that's us. If you just say goodbye to everybody, and we'll switch the cameras off. And
thank you. Happy bat detecting.
Thank you. Thank you very much as well. Thank you. We'll just get this switched off now. Bye, everyone.